everyone and welcome to my craft room. I'm Leo from inkymemories.co.uk, an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in South Wales, and today I have a simple Saturday stamping video for you. And yes, we are starting to look at Christmas cards. Believe it or not, Christmas is just under 18 weeks away and I like to get a good head start on all of my Christmas crafting. I make not just cards, I do gift packaging, gift tags, decor for around my home and so on as well, so I always like to get a nice early start. The product we're going to be using today is the Peace and Joy stamp set. This is on page 18 in the August to December catalogue. There it is. And this is actually a bundle, so there is a set of dies that also work with this. And we will be using those on some of the workshop Wednesday projects coming up soon. Today though, we are just using the stamp set. So as this is a simple Saturday project, I do have all of the pieces pre-cut and ready to go. So to start off with, I have here a card base. This is in Shaded Spruce, which is a really gorgeous, very Christmassy green. This is a half sheet of A4, so this is 14.85 centimeters by 21, and then it's scored at the middle at 10.5. I have one very vanilla envelope. I have a mat for the centre of the card, also in very vanilla, and this is 13.35 centimeters by 9. I have then a sentiment strip. This one is 4 centimeters by 14.85. And then I just have a piece of scrap, very vanilla, that I'm going to be using for another sentiment as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually stamp the sentiment, the large sentiment on the front of the card. And for this I'm using the stamp that says Bright, which you can see here. Now this is ever so slightly stained. I've been using this with red ink, and as with all photopolymer stamp sets, if you use red or pink inks or sort of darker blue inks, the red pigments do tend to stain on the stamps. It doesn't hurt the stamp in any way. You can still use it perfectly normally. It's just something to be aware of that does happen. So lining up the sentiment strip on my grid paper so I know that is nice and straight to work from, I'm going to take my stamp over to my ink pad and just lightly tap this onto the surface of the ink until I have a nice distribution of ink across my stamp. And I want to line this up so that it is central, side to side and top to bottom on my cardstock. Press down nice and firmly, and then holding the cardstock, lift up, and there is our sentiment stamped. I'm also going to stamp a couple of other bits using this scrap. So from the stamp set, you'll notice we have 3 big sentiments up here, and then we have all of these little words at the bottom as well. So you can build up pretty much any sentiment that you want for your Christmas cards. Now I've picked out Merry and to go with our card today. I'm just going to stamp those in the red ink just onto this scrap piece of very vanilla cardstock. So again, just light taps to get ink all over the surface of the stamp. Doesn't matter where you stamp these, like I said, we're going to be cutting these out just with scissors. So this is just on a little scrap of cardstock. Doesn't matter how you do that. Okay, I'm going to bring in my card base and actually fold and burnish along the score line. And taking the sentiment strip, this one here, I'm going to line it up across the middle of my card. And I'm going to use a pencil just to make some marks around the edge so I know roughly where this sits on our card front. So just a couple of very light pencil lines that you're not going to see at all in the finished card. Okay, if I move that back out of the way, you can just see here and down here I have a couple of those pencil lines, and this is going to help me line up the rest of the stamps that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to bring in ink in Shaded Spruce and pop this one open as well. And I have the Holly Leaves stamp here. And what I'm going to do is, using these lines as a guide, I'm going to stamp some holly leaves onto the base of the card above that line so they will be seen once the sentiment strip is adhered to the front of the card. And I'm going to do the same underneath as well. And just the same technique, lightly tapping the stamp into the ink just to get a nice even distribution of ink over that. Pop that to one side. I'm going to bring back in our large sentiment piece and put some holly onto this too. I'm going to do one up here and then one just going off the edge down there. I'm going to bring in the mat that is going to go in the center of our card, and I'm going to pop some holly on there too, just to add a little bit of interest and fun to the inside of our card. Like so. And then finally with this stamp, if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll have heard me say on more than one occasion that I don't do naked envelopes in my craft room. I always like to add just something on the outside of the envelope so that whoever is receiving my card knows that it is a bright, fun card inside and not something boring. So I've got all of those holly leaves done, and now I'm going to add in the holly berries on all of those. So I've got the berry stamp lined up on here, and apparently there is cat hair on there as well. The danger of living with 3 cats, there is cat hair forever everywhere. So just in the real red ink, I'm just going to ink this stamp up and then add holly berries to all of those holly leaves that I just stamped. Just like so. And it's quite surprising how well this actually shows up. So even on this dark green cardstock, this red really shows through very nicely. I love how this looks. And then finally on our sentiment strip. Okay. And that is all of the stamping that we need to do for this project. So I'm going to close up my ink pads just to save me from making a mess everywhere. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is to trim up our 2 small sentiment pieces, so the Merry and just using a pair of scissors, I'm going to fussy cut these out. So just pop that in half. I'm going to leave a small border of the very vanilla cardstock around the edge and just trim around the red background of that sentiment. There's that one done. And then the same with the and. Just leaving a small border around the edge. Just like that. And now it's time to start assembling our card together. So first of all, let's get the base, the inner into the base of the card. And I'm going to pop this one in with liquid glue. So I'm just going to run a very thin bead of glue just around the edge of that cardstock. And then across the middle. And pop this into place. As always, since we are using liquid glue, got a couple of seconds there just to wiggle it into place and make sure that it is nicely lined up. Okay, that's the inside. And then with our sentiment strip, I'm actually going to accent the edges of this in ribbon. And the ribbon that I'm using for this is this gorgeous sheer ribbon in real red, so it goes beautifully with the stamping that we've done. Now turning this over, I'm going to take stamping seal, which is the adhesive tape runner. Make sure the glue is right to the end of the roller, and then run a strip of this all the way along the edge, she says, of the sentiment piece that we've stamped. There we go. And you want to get this as close to the edge as you possibly can, and make sure you go right to the very end as well. Spin it around and do the same on the other side. I'm not quite sure what my neighbour is building today, but if you can hear the banging in the background, that would be my next door neighbour. Loves a DIY project. Okay, so I've got the stamping seal adhesive along both edges, and then taking the ribbon, I'm going to lay this into that strip of stamping seal as close to the edge as possible, trying to make sure this is nice and straight. Because this is a sheer ribbon, you can actually see through to make sure that you've got roughly the same amount of ribbon above and below the cardstock. And I'm going to take my sharp scissors, my ribbon scissors, and just trim the end. We're going to come back and trim this fully in just a moment. Spin that sentiment strip around and do the same again. So just laying the ribbon into that strip of adhesive that we've put along the edge, and then trimming that off. And now I'm going to just pick this up and trim the ribbon right to the very edges of that cardstock. And do the same on the other side. And this is why it's important to try and get the adhesive right to the very end as much as possible, so that it does anchor it nicely in place. Like so. I'm just going to run another strip of then stamping seal across the middle of this. Again, just pull it up to make sure the adhesive is right at the tip of the roller so that it comes out nice and evenly for you. And then we shall adhere this to the card base. Now you probably can't see much, if any, of your pencil lines, but that's fine. Just line it up with one side, making sure that you are as close to the middle, top to bottom, as you can. And then pop it into place. Just like that. And with these two little pieces, I'm going to use some mini dimensionals today. So I'm just going to flip these over. And these just fit onto the back of here. If you try and make sure you've got the flat sort of side of that hexagon top and bottom. So I'm just going to put one onto the and I think on the Merry I'm going to put one at either end. Okay, peel off the backing from those dimensionals. And then we're going to pop this into place just up here. So Merry, and Bright. And then to finish it off, just to give it that little extra bit of bling, I'm going to use some of these wonderful gems. And these come in red and gold. And using my take a pick tool, I'm just going to pop a couple of these onto the front of my card. And these gems they're faceted, and they actually have glitter encased into the gem itself. So you can see on some of the gold ones, you can see a little bit better in there. They have different amounts of glitter in it, it's just randomly placed into there. And the glitter in the red ones is almost holographic. It does sort of shimmer a few different colours as you move it. It's really very pretty in person. So using the take a pick, really easy to pick it up on the pointed end. It allows you then to decide where you want to pop this on your project. So I'm going to start with one in the centre of that hollyberry there. And then one, let's see, if I do one there. And then one more just in there. Bring that envelope back in, and there is our finished card. And this is a really gorgeous, bright and fun Christmas card to send. Very simple to put together. I'm pretty sure anyone who received this would absolutely love it. Now, taking this basic idea, I have made a couple of alternate examples. So doing the reverse, so this is a real red card base. I've used the sentiment joy and ending, sending and to you and yours, and some of the gold dots this time. And this ribbon is from the Wonder of the Season ribbon combo pack, which is absolutely gorgeous. This is actually in shaded spruce, and it is a stitched ribbon, and all I've done is actually cut this piece of ribbon in half and put half on either side of the sentiment. I then did another one in just jade, and this one was a little bit simpler. I just stamped multiple versions of the foliage pieces in the stamp set that you can see up here in a couple of different shades of green. This is the Just Jade in colour ribbon, and then a couple of those gold Wonder of the Season wonderful gems. And the last one that I did, this base is in Old Olive, and again I've stamped some of the foliage in the background in a couple of different shades of green. And I've added some pieces from the, what's this called? The Forever Gold Specialty Designer Series paper. This is all laser cut paper. There's sort of two different versions of this paper in the pack. One is sort of card front pieces that are all laser cut, and the other sheet has all of these gorgeous sort of flourishes pre-cut out for you. And I've just popped a couple of those between the ribbon and the sentiment piece that goes across the front, and again some more of those gems. So altogether I think these cards make a really gorgeous set. Certainly a really nice simple way to make plenty of Christmas cards to send out to your friends and family this year. Thank you very much for joining me in my craft room today. I really hope that you have enjoyed this project. If you have, please consider giving this video a like, just so I know it is something that you've enjoyed, and consider subscribing to my channel to see more videos as they go live. If you have any questions about this project or any of the products that I've used, or about Stampin' Up, pop those below and I'll be happy to answer those for you. Or if you have any comments, then again pop those below and I'll do my best to help you out. If you're based in the UK and you don't currently have a Stampin' Up demonstrator, there is a link in the description box below to the web form on my website where you can request a copy of the catalogues, and I'll get those all out into the post for you. All of the products used in this project are also available through my store, and there is a link to that in the description box below. And what I've done on my blog, I've actually given more details on the products that I've used in the alternate versions as well, and that is at inkymemories.co.uk. Thank you again for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.